Imagine a world where the fate of an empire hangs in the balance, a world where one man's life and death could change everything. What if I told you that a long-lost letter from Pontius Pilate to Emperor Tiberius reveals astonishing details about Jesus of Nazareth, details so striking that they challenge everything we think we know about him? This is not just another retelling of biblical history. This is the hidden truth, a revelation that could shake the foundations of faith and politics alike. What did Pilate really see, and why did he feel compelled to share this extraordinary account? Join us as we unravel this gripping narrative. In the heart of Judea, a province brimming with a blend of ancient traditions and restless minds, the winds of change were blowing. Pontius Pilate, newly appointed Roman governor, arrived in Jerusalem only to find himself standing on unstable ground. He sensed immediately that this was no ordinary place, and the atmosphere weighed heavily on him. As he walked the bustling streets, he noticed a mixture of solemnity and frustration etched into the faces of the people. Their quiet glances held something deeper than discontent, a simmering tension that hinted at something brewing just beneath the surface. The political and spiritual climate of Judea was unlike anything he had known. Judea was a land of strong beliefs and a history of resistance against outside rule. Its people held tightly to their customs and their faith, which made governing them challenging, especially as Rome's demands clashed with Jewish traditions. Pilate could feel that every move he made was scrutinized, every order questioned. The high priests, the influential religious leaders of the city, were wary of him, meeting his authority with skepticism, sometimes even hostility. Pilate was painfully aware that their loyalty was not to Rome, but to a cause and culture he struggled to understand. As he navigated his first days in Jerusalem, whispers of rebellion reached his ears. Secret meetings, hushed conversations, and veiled looks spoke of unrest ready to ignite at any moment. Pilate quickly realized this was more than a localized issue. This tension had the potential to destabilize not just Judea, but the very fabric of the Roman Empire. Fearing the consequences, Pilate felt compelled to send word to the emperor himself. In his letter to Tiberius, he described the delicate and dangerous balance he faced, a place where faith, politics, and rebellion were all intertwined. This wasn't merely about governing a region. It was a struggle that could disrupt the stability of the empire itself. Pilate sat down to write to Emperor Tiberius, the ruler of the vast Roman Empire, whose judgment he valued and feared. He opened his letter with a respectful greeting, mindful of the gravity of what he was about to report. He explained how extraordinary and troubling the situation in Judea was becoming. It was as if his role as governor had been plagued with obstacles from the very start, a series of setbacks and tensions that would haunt his every decision. When Pilate first took control in Judea, he tried to assert his authority by hosting a grand banquet. In Roman culture, these gatherings were significant. They showed power, wealth, and leadership. But to his shock and humiliation, not a single important guest appeared. Pilate was left with an empty hall, surrounded by his own officials, realizing this wasn't a simple absence, but a bold statement from Judea's leaders. Their refusal to attend was a clear and deliberate act, an outright rejection of his rule, and by extension, Roman dominance. This was more than a personal affront to Pilate. It was a symbolic gesture that the Jewish leaders would not bow easily to Roman authority. Such defiance deeply unsettled Pilate, who recognized the danger of a province where respect for Rome was scarce and resistance simmered beneath the surface. But before we dive further, if you're looking to attract wealth effortlessly, like so many others discovering this new wave of success, check the link in the comments below. The secret: a surprising wealth formula revealed by a rogue NASA scientist that's already making waves on social media. Limited seats are available, so make sure to check it out now to uncover these life-changing secrets. Now let's return to our exploration of Pilate's extraordinary encounter with Jesus and how these historical tensions shaped their world. As he continued his letter, he described how the unease only grew, with each encounter revealing that Judea was unlike other provinces, its leaders cunning and resolute, unafraid to challenge his authority at every turn. He knew this rebellion wasn't just a threat to his position. It was a challenge that could erode the very power of the empire if left unchecked. Pilate's dealings with the high priests, the influential religious leaders of Judea, only served to deepen his sense of unease. These men, who presented themselves as spiritual authorities devoted to God, were not as straightforward as they seemed. Pilate quickly learned that beneath their displays of religious devotion lay a complex web of personal and political ambitions. They spoke in the language of righteousness, but Pilate could see their true intentions flickering in their eyes. Their loyalty was not to him, nor even to the people, but to a power that went beyond either. The high priests held sway over the masses, and they were skilled in using this influence to maintain their positions and control. Pilate, a seasoned leader, knew the signs of such ambition. He observed how they manipulated situations to their advantage, sometimes even shifting the blame for unrest onto Roman rule while consolidating their hold over the people. To Pilate, they were not merely religious figures, but dangerous political actors who wouldn't hesitate to betray their closest allies if it meant preserving their power. In his report to Tiberius, Pilate cautioned the emperor to keep a watchful eye on these leaders. He described them as men who could turn an entire city against itself, using religion as a cloak to mask their thirst for control. Pilate could feel the tension building as the priests spread murmurs among the people, stoking resentment and unrest with every whisper. As each day passed, the pressure grew more intense, and Pilate found himself walking a tightrope, knowing that one misstep could spark a rebellion he might not be able to contain. Amidst this growing turmoil, a figure of peace emerged, Jesus of Nazareth. Unlike the fiery zealots who preached revolt and defiance, Jesus taught with a wisdom and calm that captivated everyone who heard him. Where others sought to stir rebellion, he offered a message that spoke to the spirit and the mind. To Pilate, this man was unlike any he had encountered. Jesus' words were powerful but not inflammatory. His teachings seemed to touch something deep within people, bridging a divide that had long separated Roman and Jewish worlds. Pilate first observed Jesus from a distance, intrigued as crowds gathered around him in the streets. Jesus did not seem to seek fame or power, yet he drew followers with his simple, profound words. Pilate noticed how people listened intently, their expressions softened by an understanding that went beyond religious fervor. Jesus had an aura of peace, a calm that contrasted sharply with the anger and restlessness in the city. Curious to know more, Pilate decided to send his trusted secretary into the crowd. He instructed him to listen closely, to understand what it was about Jesus' words that resonated so powerfully with the people. When his secretary returned, he spoke of teachings that seemed to transcend any one culture or tradition, wisdom that appealed to the heart, not just to the intellect. This man, Jesus, wasn't inciting chaos or preaching rebellion, but he was challenging people to think beyond themselves. In one moment, when asked about paying taxes to Rome, Jesus spoke with a clarity that astonished Pilate. He suggested a balance, advocating respect for both earthly duties and divine obligations. It was this balance, this wisdom, that intrigued Pilate the most. He began to see Jesus as more than just a religious leader. He was a bridge between worlds, someone who could calm the storm that threatened his region. Yet Pilate knew that the high priests saw Jesus as a threat, someone who spoke truth to power and unsettled their authority. And in that realization, Pilate felt the tension rise, knowing that Jesus' presence in Jerusalem was about to bring everything to a boiling point. When his secretary returned, he brought with him tales of Jesus' unparalleled wisdom, words that seemed to transcend the philosophy of even the greatest thinkers of their time. One notable exchange had caught Pilate's attention. When asked about paying taxes to Caesar, Jesus had replied with a profound statement, advocating for a balance between worldly duties and divine obligations. It was this wisdom that led Pilate to spare Jesus from punishment, even when others urged for his arrest. Pilate's decision to grant Jesus freedom of speech drew ire from the powerful Jewish elite. They saw Jesus as a threat, a man unafraid to confront them with harsh truths. Pilate, however, was not easily intimidated. He found himself drawn to the man who spoke with such clarity and conviction. In a pivotal moment, he summoned Jesus to the praetorium for a private discussion, a meeting that would forever alter the course of events. As Jesus entered, Pilate felt a strange mixture of fear and awe. He described the encounter as if he were standing before an otherworldly being. Jesus radiated an aura of calmness, contrasting sharply with Pilate's own trepidation. They spoke, and Pilate expressed his admiration for Jesus' teachings while simultaneously cautioning him about the dangerous implications of his words. Yet Jesus, with serene confidence, told Pilate that his mission was not to incite chaos, but to bring peace. Tensions escalated as Passover approached, a time when the city was fraught with unrest. Pilate felt the ground beneath him shifting as factions united against Jesus. A conspiracy was brewing, and the stakes grew ever higher. Despite Pilate's attempts to protect Jesus, the cries for his crucifixion grew louder, and the people, inflamed by their leaders, demanded his death. As the chaos erupted, Pilate found himself in a precarious position. He understood that if he didn't act, he risked losing control of a city on the brink of rebellion. The atmosphere was electric with anger, and Pilate's heart raced as he grappled with the demands of the crowd. Even amidst this frenzy, Pilate believed in Jesus' innocence, recognizing that the accusations against him were baseless. The trial began, and it was a spectacle of political maneuvering. Pilate was caught between his loyalty to Rome and his sense of justice. As the mob shouted for blood, he offered them a chance to save Jesus, suggesting that they could release a prisoner as was customary during the festival. But the crowd rejected his offer, insisting that Jesus be crucified. It was as if the very heavens mourned the fate that awaited the Nazarene. Pilate's efforts to maintain order crumbled under the weight of popular demand. The cries of "Crucify him" rang out, drowning any voice of reason. Pilate felt trapped in a web of political intrigue and moral dilemmas, his heart heavy with the knowledge that an innocent man was to be condemned. The fateful moment had arrived. Jesus, carrying the weight of his cross, was led through the streets, past jeering crowds, and up to the place of crucifixion. As he reached the hill, Golgotha, the tension in the city grew palpable. Pilate, standing nearby, felt himself on the edge of despair, sensing that he was witnessing something far beyond human understanding. An unsettling silence fell over the land, only to be broken by the dull thud of hammer striking nail, a sound that echoed across Jerusalem. As Jesus was raised upon the cross, dark omens began to cast a shadow over the city. The sky grew dim, and a chilling stillness settled over the scene. Suddenly, the earth itself seemed to respond. Tremors shook the ground, and an earthquake rippled through the land, cracking the stone walls of the city and unsettling even the toughest of Roman soldiers. Birds fell silent, and the people, once confident in their demands for his crucifixion, now felt the weight of an indescribable dread. It was as though the entire world had paused, holding its breath, waiting in suspense. Pilate could feel it in his bones. Something momentous was unfolding, something that would haunt him for the rest of his days. In the hours after the crucifixion, Pilate returned to his chambers, visibly shaken. Though he had been present at countless executions, this one felt different. It lingered heavily on his conscience. As he sat in the dim light, a profound silence enveloped the room, broken only by distant whispers and rumors circulating in the city. The air was thick with an unsettling foreboding, and whispers of divine retribution spread quickly among the people. Even Pilate, a hardened governor, felt the weight of something greater at play. As evening fell, the sky darkened unnaturally, casting an eerie shadow over the city. This wasn't just a fading sun. It was as though the heavens themselves mourned the events that had just taken place. It was then that a man named Joseph of Arimathea, a quiet but respected figure among the Jews, approached Pilate. With humility and sadness in his eyes, Joseph requested permission to bury Jesus. Pilate, still trying to comprehend the day's events, granted the request without hesitation. He instructed his soldiers to respect Joseph's wishes and ensure that the body was treated with dignity. It was a small act, perhaps, but one that hinted at Pilate's growing realization that he had been part of something beyond his understanding. Days passed, and the city began to return to a semblance of normalcy, until the impossible happened. The tomb where Jesus had been laid was found empty. News of the disappearance spread like wildfire through Jerusalem, igniting rumors and speculation among the people. Jesus' followers, overcome with astonishment and hope, claimed that he had risen from the dead, saying that he had fulfilled the ancient prophecies surrounding him. For many, this was not just a mysterious event, but a sign of a greater truth. Pilate, hearing these rumors, grew anxious, knowing that if the story continued to spread, it could throw the city into yet another turmoil. Alarmed by the implications of such claims, he dispatched his soldiers to guard the tomb, hoping to contain the situation. He understood that if people believed Jesus had risen, it could fuel more unrest, stirring the masses and further challenging Roman authority. The guards he placed by the tomb began to witness strange phenomena themselves. Unexplainable lights, strange sounds, and an unshakable sense of dread. Pilate knew he could no longer ignore the significance of what had transpired, as the story of the empty tomb and the mystery surrounding it continued to ripple throughout the city, shaping history in ways he could never have foreseen. The soldiers assigned to watch the tomb were met with phenomena beyond their comprehension. Reports of strange lights and unexplainable events left them terrified, questioning everything they thought they knew. Some even suggested that the disciples had stolen the body, but Pilate remained skeptical, knowing that the truth was far more complex. In his reflections, Pilate recognized that Jesus was no ordinary man. The compassion in his eyes, the serenity in his words, and the power he wielded over the hearts of the people were unlike anything he had encountered before. As he pondered the gravity of these events, he understood that the repercussions would extend far beyond Jerusalem. Jesus had touched the very essence of what it meant to be human, challenging the status quo and redefining the relationship between the divine and the earthly. Pilate's letter to Tiberius was not merely an account of events. It was a testament to a man whose life and teachings would resonate through the ages. As we peel back the layers of history, we uncover the profound impact that Jesus had, not just on his immediate followers, but on the world itself. This is a story of courage, conflict, and ultimately, transformation. If you found this exploration enlightening, don't forget to subscribe and click on the video appearing on your screen to delve deeper into the mysteries of history and faith. Join us as we continue to uncover the untold stories that shape our understanding of the past.